families.
Okay.
You know how many people that is? 400 families. He takes care of them.
Okay.
He supports them financially.
Okay.
So why won't people go there? You know,
Okay.
they give to the people. They take from this section of the people and they give it to this people. So they meet the needs of the people. Another thing I have realized is that when people are desperate, man of God, they lose guards.
Yeah.
When people are desperate, they can even lose common sense.
Yeah.
They will do things they wouldn't do if they were not desperate. And there are people in need. Doctors have not been able to help them. The experts have not been able to help them. Some people are suffering from terminal diseases. They don't know where to turn to. And these guys will promise them heaven and earth and in between. So they will just turn to them, whether they can give them solutions or they cannot give them solutions.
Okay.
So these are among other reasons. And then also, I think that our successive governments have failed to a very large extent
Okay.
in providing social services for people.
Okay.
You see, because there are some things you don't need the church to have it.
Okay.
I remember many years ago I was in Germany. There was this lady who was battered by the husband, was abused by the husband. The government gives her accommodation.
Yeah.
She gives birth and she is comfortable. If a Ghanaian goes through that, where is the government to give her that kind of support? So she turns to the church. So these, among others, are the reasons why people will they get abused and they still go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but you know, it's quite interesting that you mentioned all the, if you will, positive outputs of the church. However, we're talking about abuses, which to a very large extent are being perpetrated by people whose core mandate or role is actually to give comfort to those who come to them for help. So where lies this issue of like you said, those people who have crept in? What kind of people are they? Are they men of God or something else? As Jesus would describe them, there could be wolves in sheep clothing. Okay. How do we, for instance, because of those people, there seemed to be a blanket washing of all the men of the collar. You understand? Why does this happen?
Man of God, every human institution will have this challenge.
Okay.
It is not only pastors that have some to be fake. There are fake politicians, there are fake medical doctors, there are fake lawyers, there are people who don't practice according to ethics in every sector of society, in every profession.
Okay.
There are people like that. But I want to believe that the reason these people have found a place among the clergy, unfortunately, I want to say one of the reasons is lack of proper regulation.
Really?
Proper regulation.
Regulation by what? The government?
Not
or
the government.
The church body?
For me, regulation is not the issue. If you ask me, I will tell you I am for regulation, because regulation simply means to guide a practice by rules and regulations. Just because you want proper practices, you know, it's not bad. But the question is, who does it and how is it done?
How will it be enforced?
Exactly.
Because that's going to, I mean, it means to say you need to have people in every location of church activity every now and then monitoring what is going on.
Definitely so.
So just setting a rule in a book will not get the problem solved.
No. And even man of God, who sets the rules? Is another question.
We'll come to that in a minute. But you are a psychologist. Help us understand why people still throng these churches of these so-called fake pastors when they have seen consequences of what others go through at the hands of the same so-called prophets.
People are needy. There is the desire to survive in every man. I read this in Genesis chapter 1 verse 26. When God created man, he blessed man and he said, be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful and multiply. You see, so God puts this desire in every man. Every man has that desire, the desire to survive, the desire to make it, the desire to break through, the desire to be further than they are today, the desire to be better than they are today, the desire to have more, be more, and then do better. Every man has that desire. And you see, if we don't get that desire fulfilled, if we don't get it met, we tend to certain things. We tend to certain things, whether good or bad. We tend to them. People would do virtue or vice to fulfill that desire. They will do what society accepts and society does not accept to fulfill that desire. So that desire is in man. It draws man towards the supernatural. So that's one reason people have that desire. And when you don't get that desire met, you become frustrated. And then frustration will drive you into a lot of places
to wrong
that
places.
You are not supposed to be, because you are frustrated. You need help. So they go there. Then again, there is something called existential I don't want to sound too technical. So let me say desperation.
Okay.
Like we said in the beginning, when people are desperate, you see, they have some basic needs. They have come to a point where they are being frustrated. They are desperate. They don't think right. Desperation doesn't make you think right. It will make you put down all your rules. All your principles. You are so desperate. You want a need met. You are sick. You want to be healed. There is a problem you want solved. So you don't care about any other thing except that need. So people will drop every other thing and pursue that need. They will go there, whether they will get the answers or not. Man of God, you won't believe it. Let me give you this instance. I once saw my professor in a certain church. I was so surprised. So when I met him, I engaged him. And then he made me understand that he had issues. That he's tried every place. He's not had answers. So he thought that was the best place for him to be. Then he goes there. So the issue is whether he will get answers or not. As long as he's been made to believe that he can get answers, he will go there to try. If you will let me talk about this, the woman with the issue of blood, she had an issue. Nobody was able to help her. The doctors could not help her, not because they didn't want to help her, they just could not. It went beyond their expertise. So she was desperate, and Bible says she did everything she knew to do. Bible didn't specify. Probably she did some very bad things. She went through the hands of fake people who abused her. So that's what desperation can do. Desperation can drive people into places they won't go otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, and like the story just cited, according to scripture, Bible says that the woman with the issue of blood, she wasted all her resources on just trying to get help. And people seem to be going through this in current generation. Okay, well, hold that thought. We'll take a quick comment, if you will, from the moderator of the Presbyterian Church, the Reverend Professor J.O.Y. Mante. Take a listen, people. We'll be right back.
These days, some people are saying, let us have legislation on pastors. I think it is wrong to have legislation on any group of professionals. We don't do that. If a pastor rapes a woman, treat him as a human being who has raped a woman and apply the laws on rape on the person. If they had jailed some pastors by now, some people would have sat up. But you don't make laws for pastors, because if a teacher goes to rape somebody, you don't go and make laws for teachers. You don't do that. You don't do those kinds of legislation. But I think that because people love lots of pastors in this country so much, have high respect. Some of the people, some of our own people, they call themselves pastors, have their own churches, they are not under anybody's discipline, they do anything that they want. If they do what is wrong, what is against the law, they should be treated as such. If they have to be jailed, jail them as human beings, not because they are pastors. And I will avail myself, if I go and do anything against the law, may the Lord deal with me.
right. So you heard Reverend Professor J.O.I. Mante saying legislation is not the key. Okay. Regulation, or as it were legislation, the key to protecting the Ghanaians from being exploited by the charlatan pastors? Is it?
It's a question that I can't say yes or no.
Why not?
Whatever I say, I need to give very long explanation.
Okay, so if you will say yes, why? And
I
if
told you
know
in
why.
the beginning,
Yes.
my issue is not with regulation.
Okay.
My issue is who does it and how it is done.
Okay.
I think churches and our operations should be regulated.
Okay.
And these are my reasons. The first one is this. Although the church is a spiritual organization, it is also made up of human beings.
Okay.
So I can comfortably say it is a human organization.
Okay.
Every human organization has this property of fallibility.
Okay.
It is fallible.
Okay.
We can make mistakes.
Bound to make mistakes.
And
yeah.
because of that, we are not a perfect organization. Because we are fallible, I think some form of regulation will help us because we are fallible.
Okay.
Number two, man of God, the church is a place where we form morality. We teach people morality.
That's right.
And religion is so powerful. We teach people to be moral. We teach people to be principled. We teach people to be responsible. So interpretation and application of the text, the Bible, is very important.
Okay.
We have had issues of pastors in Ghana, in South Africa, in Kenya, in Nigeria, even in America, who have misinterpreted holy text and misapplied it, and it has resulted in a death of hundreds of people. And because of that, it is very necessary that we regulate such an institution with such magnitude of power. You can train people's mind, and it is believed that religion is the most powerful psychological tool. You can indoctrinate, you can train somebody, you can put some ideas into somebody's mind and then turn them into whatever you want. It's so powerful, and we can't leave this unregulated. Because of these reasons, I think, Pastor, our activities and practices need regulation. But this is the question: who does it? Is it the state that will come in to regulate?
Okay.
You see, when you look at history, man of God, let me go into a little bit of history.
Okay, sure.
The church used to be very powerful many centuries ago.
True.
The pastor was the community leader, the pastor was the doctor. When you're sick, you go to the pastor. And the state used to depend on the church for interpretations of happenings.
Okay.
When people are sick, the church will interpret. Maybe this is the reason they have sinned, they are walking in unforgiveness. Then something came up called bacteriology. When bacteria was discovered as the cause of sickness, the church lost that power.
Okay.
Now the state now turns to science.
Yeah.
And then Galileo discovers the sun and all that. And then the mystery around the church is breaking. And then the state is no longer interested in the church. The state turns to science and philosophy. It is the reason today Europe is suffering, because they turned their back on the church. You see, they looked at the church as manipulative and exploitative.
But it was in those centuries.
It was. But
the
you
church
see,
was quite very
man of God, you don't just have to see one side of the coin.
Okay.
And then just focus on that. In as much as the church was exploitative and manipulative,
Okay.
and all those things, the church also played a role.
Okay.
You see, the church was the moral conscience of the state. The church put the state together.
Okay.
You see, so when the church was losing that power and that grip, there came a conflict between the church and the state.
Okay.
You see, and it is there till today. But most Christian scientists are saying it is very unnecessary, because the church has a role to play. The church is a partner in the state in terms of development. The church is needed. So if we need regulation, who does it? Man of God, we can't trust politicians in Africa to do this.
We may have to come to what will be the content of this legislation or this regulation. But we'll come back to that in a minute. Let's hear what the founder and the Apostle General of the Royal House Chapel, the Most Reverend Sam Korankye, has to say. Quick moment, we'll be back.
Yes, we the clergy and the leaders of the church in Ghana do believe, and we accept that there are a lot of doctrinal excesses, behavioral excesses, excesses in practice, and wrong ethical behavior of certain members of the clergy. We do believe and we do accept that these things do exist. But we also like to call the attention of the state, the government, and everyone who is listening to this program, that some of these things that we are confronted with today have been with us since Bible times. There have always been false prophets. There have always been religious leaders who have taken advantage of the people, and they have wrongfully manipulated people, and they have done things that God had not instructed, or the word of God had not instructed. Nevertheless, God also always has his mechanisms and his ways of dealing with such excesses and such practices, ethics and behavior. People cite the Rwanda example and case. What people have to know is that Rwanda and Ghana are not on the same wavelength when it comes to democratic practices and social and cultural backgrounds. Freedom of worship has been with us in Ghana for long. The church in Ghana is much stronger and older and more mature, if you want to consider the positives, and then the people who are doing great things for the kingdom. Ghana is way ahead of Rwanda. So therefore, if what is happening in Rwanda now, the legislation and censorship of churches, if that were to come to our country, Ghana, I can guarantee everybody that the situation will be very unpalatable. If you want to regulate religious bodies, are you going to be regulating churches, the Islamic various factions and groups? Are you going to be regulating traditional worshippers and traditional leaders, etc., etc.? That, I think, is a no-go area. We agree that Parliament is concerned. We agree that government is concerned about the citizens and the abuses and so on and so forth. What is the way forward? We, the churches, and I'm speaking for my council, Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council, and probably for Christian Council of Ghana as well, because just recently they have issued out a statement that state and government legislation is not the answer to curb and to control the excesses and the abuses of some of these churches and some of these, in quotes, men of God. Legislation, state legislation and state censorship will not be the solution. Going forward, we are proposing self-regulation. For example, it is expected, and we expect that the member churches of Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council, of which I serve as the first vice president, we should be able to bring our members to book. We should be able to discipline our members who go off doctrinal, true and proper doctrinal practices, and do things like what is done in other countries. Church leaders making their members eat grass, spray insecticides into their eyes, suck water into their mouth, and then kiss their members by way of in the name of deliverance, and so on and so forth. We have seen pictures of certain men of God holding private parts of certain female members. We have seen in pictures churches where females have been asked to remove their underwears and wave them as handkerchiefs. Some of the panties have been brought to the altar, and so on and so forth. We have seen all of these things in pictures, and these things, I condemn them with the strongest term and word and power and passion that I have within me to say that these things are unbiblical and they are not of God.
Of course, that's the Apostle General Reverend Sam Korankye. He's stating his case on the matter. We're still moving on, and on the phone line right now we have Mr. Kofi Bentil. He's a lawyer and also the Vice President of Imani Ghana. Good evening, Mr. Bentil. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Good evening.
How are you, sir? Hello, how are you, sir?
Oh, I am fine. Thank you very much.
Okay. So we're going to shoot straight to the point. I mean, we're talking regulation or legislation for churches in Ghana. Aren't there laws already in the Constitution that deal with human rights abuses? So do we need other legislation all over again so that we can, rather or not, to enforce our existing laws?
The short answer is no. We don't need any new law to add more regulation to religious bodies. In fact, there are a lot of laws to do that.
Okay.
The irony, therefore, or the irony, however, is that it's not everything that is the job of government. It's not everything that the government must come and do for you. With all due respect, for instance, the government cannot come and wake you up in the morning and help you to brush your teeth.
Okay.
There are things that you have to do for yourself.
Okay.
And if you do not do them, government cannot do them.
Okay.
Now, if government tries to do that for you, they will actually be infringing your own rights.
Okay.
All right. So, in the establishment of a state and legal system, people must understand that not everything has to be done by government.
Okay.
Now, the nature of our constitution also is such that you have enshrined as a fundamental right the principle of the right to association.
Okay.
Okay. And there is specifically put there the right to religious freedom.
Okay.
And specifically says the right to practice and practice your religion as you deem fit.
Okay.
All right. Now, and there are so many other things also in the law, okay, which put together mean that nobody can tell you how to practice your religion. Now, to a certain extent, therefore, that allows you to do almost anything and everything. But there are restrictions in the law.
Okay.
And the restrictions are to the effect that nobody can infringe on your right. Okay. Let me boil it down and later we can unpack it. So this is what it means. You can choose whatever you want to do as long as it is not affecting anybody negatively. That is one.
Okay.
In the context of religion, if what you are doing is affecting somebody negatively, it is for the person there.
Okay.
The person you are affecting wants to remove themselves from the system.
Okay.
If they you cannot force them back into it.
That's right.
Number two, if they come into the system by themselves voluntarily and you do something that affects them negatively, personally, to take it upon themselves to come up against you. In other words, if somebody is abused in church, if you go to church and in the name of deliverance, somebody pushes you down and you get hurt,
okay,
and you are not complaining about it, nobody can complain about it for you.
For you. Okay.
If you are not taking the matter up, nobody can take up the matter for you. There is a legal principle called voluntae non fit injuria.
Okay.
Lawyers like a lot of Latin.
A lot of Latin, I know. So
that simply means that when you voluntarily engage in something, knowing the dangers thereof, you cannot come back and complain of it.
Okay.
When you put some of these things together, what it means is that if somebody takes themselves to a church where that people are whipped, and they subject themselves to the whipping of that church as part of a religious ritual, they can.
Oh boy.
Now, if about it, then the laws will kick in trying to protect them.
Okay.
But something must be also noted. The nature of our constitution is such that all religions are together. There can be no discrimination according to religion. So you can separate Christianity, for instance, from religious traditional practices.
Okay.
So the day you decide that you are going to regulate churches or what pastors do, that is the same day you have to regulate malams.
Okay.
You have to regulate fetish priests.
Okay.
You even have to regulate some herbalists who are spiritualists as well.
Okay.
Okay. And the truth of the matter is that pastors today, or so-called, not all of them are pastors, are doing very terrible things. Okay. But I'm telling you, go to the villages and go to the fetish priests and other places. Worse things are being.
Yeah, abuses are taking place there.
Oh, absolutely. In the name of religion, in the name of spirituality, in the name of belief,
Okay.
worse things are fetish and magicians and whatever. So it is a very slippery slope. And look, Europeans have had 4,000 years of dealing with religious extremism, and they've come to the conclusion that it must be something that must be left alone, and this is a place where the government must not go.
Okay.
If you want to protect people, that's why you strengthen your services. So like somebody was saying, if somebody feels abused, they must have a place to go and complain, and then the system can take up whoever committed that offense. So in the whole discussion of this thing, self-regulation is the most effective and the most compatible with law.
Okay.
So look, there is usefulness in discussing this matter. But I, for one, have no doubt, and I'm going to make this statement clearly, the government cannot regulate what pastors do. It is legally impossible to do it under our law. And if they try to do it, people like us or people like myself will go to court and shut it down. Not because we don't want regulation, but because it is a slippery slope you don't want to go down, under. We would rather advocate for other things that will protect our people.
Okay.
I am all for individuals taking on their pastors or groups assisting individuals to shut down churches that infringe on people's human rights. And I'm all for self-regulation and all for making sure that the groups like the Ghana Pentecostal Council and Co. are strengthened so that we will know who is a good pastor and who is not a pastor. And then people will be informed, and if they make their choice, it is up to them. You cannot stop somebody from going to drink bath water if they believe it will heal them.
It will heal them.
Because faith essentially that is reasonable. So you have to allow some of those things. It's not everything that government can do. So these are my statements to begin with on the issue.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Bento. We really appreciate your thoughts and your time. Really grateful. Okay. All right. So you heard Mr. Bentel. He says no regulation is required, and like he put it, it's a slippery slope. So you need to avoid it. I mean, what if, for instance, if regulation is not the solution, then what is the ideal way to check this excesses and exploitations by the fake pastors and the charlatans who are perpetrating this wickedness within the system?
Thank God for Mr. Kofi Bentil. He made very wonderful submissions. Before I go to that, let me take just 1 minute to finish what I was saying before he came in. That there should be regulation. But who does it and how it is done? We can't trust African politicians to do that. One man said, if anything you give to an African politician, you give to them at your own peril. Another man said a politician in Africa can give you their mother for you to vote for them. As soon as you vote for them, they will use the power you have given them to come back for their mother. So we can't trust the state to regulate the churches. Number two, man of God, we are in this nation when churches like ICGC, they started a university, they struggled with accreditation because they were perceived to belong to one party. And the other party did not give them accreditation. I stand here to say it. If we allow the government in, it will stifle innovation. Also, for the church is a spiritual organization. All things being equal, we come out with very fantastic ideas. It will shock you to know that the banking industry was started by a church in Scotland. A very poor pastor in a very poor church who prayed and God gave him that idea. A church like the Church of Pentecost Pentecost. They have very robust financial system. They have saved so much money, so rich, that it is said that they can run their ministry for 30 years if nobody gives money to them again.
Wow.
And recently, a certain government consulted them to learn from them. So if the church should regulate, all these innovations will be stifled out.
Okay.
So my point is that the government or the state should stay away from the church.
Okay.
There are ecclesiastical bodies already in existence, like the Ghana Pentecostal Council.
That's true.
The Catholics have their own, Methodists have their own. There are strong ecclesiastical bodies.
Okay.
Let us resource them and empower them to do the work. Because the church is spiritual, the state is secular. The church system is largely theocratic.
Okay.
The state practices democracy.
Democracy.
So how does the state come to regulate the church, to make rules for the church? It doesn't work, and it will not work. President Grant said we should keep on separating the church from the state. So these ecclesiastical bodies, I think, should be empowered and resourced to rather regulate the practices of the, since they are already spiritual bodies.
Okay.
Things we can do is this: if people are going to register their churches, okay, we should check their background. I know that registry does church registrations, but that's just about it.
Okay.
You go to register your church, whether you are coming to do business with it or you're coming, they don't care about it. People who come to register, I think we should check their background.
Okay.
At least they should have basic education. When I say education,
Well, but
I'm not talking about formal.
Well, but I don't know. I mean, this is me thinking aloud. Is it that those who are perpetrating these evil activities in the name of church and stuff like that, is it only those who are quote unquote uneducated people or don't have basic education? I don't think
Mostly. Man of God, seriously speaking, if you have been to school, there are some of the things you won't even think about it. Mostly, I have studied these guys. Most of them come from very low background. They have this psychological need to get social status.
Okay.
So whatever they do, they want to buy this car so they can compare themselves with the professor who went to school.
Okay.
They want to live in this area so that they can compare themselves to this politician. So whatever they do is driven by the desire to climb the social ladder.
Okay.
And religion is the only way they can do it. So you check their background. Who are they trained? And when I say trained, I don't mean only formal.
Okay.
There is informal training.
True.
Who did he study under? Is he being mentored? Does he have a mentor? Where is he coming from? And after the registration, let's look for them. What are they doing? Are they still doing what they registered the church for?
Okay.
Those practices, I think, will help.
Will help.
And these things should be done by the ecclesiastical bodies, not the state.
Okay. What if some of these charlatans are not submitted to the ecclesiastical bodies that will do the regulation? Because you would be, I mean, you have done some research on them. You would realize some of them. It's quite interesting that you mentioned sometimes the training you're talking about is who they submit to or who mentors them. Some of them have come out to be vocal about who mentored them or who is their spiritual fathers. Those men are upright men, but they are carrying on with all kinds of corrupt practices and stuff like that. You can't marry the two. Okay, and then also freedom of association. They can decide to belong to those bodies, that whether it's a Christian Council or Ghana Pentecostal Council and stuff or not. They can operate free range. How, if they don't belong to the association, how do you go to control what they do?
My point is this: if at the level of registration they put you in category,
Okay.
you can't exist if you don't have a category.
Okay.
They put you in a category. Are you a Catholic?
Okay.
Are you a Methodist? Are you a Pentecostal? Where do you want to belong?
Okay.
There are so many ecclesiastical bodies: International Council for Clergy, Concerned Clergy Association of Ghana. So many of them, I know they are being led by credible men of God,
Okay.
men of integrity. So then, if you are registering and you don't want to belong to any of these ecclesiastical bodies, then how do you go independent? Who will regulate you? How are you regulated? You cannot be regulated.
Okay.
And man of God, seriously, in mentorship, it is very difficult to go wayward
Okay.
from the path your mentor shows you.
Sure.
Those cases of people who say this is my spiritual father, they just relate with those people just to identify with them for credibility.
Okay.
I remember there was a time, as a great mentor of mine, Bishop Charles Ajinasari. One of these guys just passed through once or twice and is already on TV. This is my spiritual father. The next day, he is way off.
The course.
And this spiritual father is very credible, a man of integrity. So obviously, you haven't understudied.
Okay.
You just associated
Yes,
to get
association.
that credibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have too much time, but maybe you might want to join us on the phone lines. You can call 0302 216541. Again, 0302 216541. What's your take on whether the church should be regulated or not? On WhatsApp, Chris Kwashi says, no regulation is powerful enough to regulate church. Wrong church organization is as old as Jesus' era. His disciples requested for the destruction of particular sect. The body of Christ must hear enough of God's truth, and members need to be equipped by church leaders so the Christian can tell what is wrong and what is right. Let's focus on teaching people and take them from spiritual poverty, mental poverty, social poverty, psychological poverty, and financial poverty by pure understanding of truth. For lack of knowledge, God's people perish. Nothing sets free like truth. Awesome. Interesting. Okay. Hello. Thank you for joining us. How are you, sir?
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Oti Boateng from Tema, come to 11.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, Oti Boateng.
I think the false prophets and the pastors, I think it's hard to get them out of the system. Because after them, some pastors have said that the government should not come in.
Okay.
So who should come in? Because after them, they are not ready to train any members.
Okay.
After them, they are there for making money.
Okay.
See, it's their business they are doing, so no one can control them. If we say, oh, these people should control them, fine.
Okay, let's talk to Juma Joseph. I think we lost this one. Hello.
Yeah, Reverend, good evening.
Good evening. How are you, Joe?
I'm very fine. I hope you're also doing well.
We're good. Thank you. Let's hear you.
Yeah, my question is, when you talk about regulations, is that about seeing them to be business personals or business entities? So they should pay taxes, or we should regulate?
No, to regulate the activities of their corrupt practices and all. That's basically it. Okay, I think we lost it. On Facebook, Antoinette Agboza says, very necessary to regulate churches. Kenneth Arthur says, why regulate the church alone? Okay, that's a question. It is begging for answers. Samuel Kweku Jumper Obin says the church should be regulated through Christian organizations. Example, Christian Council, GPCC, NACC, and regulations shouldn't be left to the states. Okay. Kofi Francis Agri says no need to regulate any churches. All we have to do is to ensure NCA and the Ministry of Communications revoking the TV broadcasting license of these charlatans and fetish priests who have been giving TV and broadcasting licenses and are just all over the free to the air decoders and on multi TV platforms. That's all. Until that is done, we'll keep going and dancing around with this issue. You think that's a solution? Maybe. Then one says, congratulations to... okay, I think we lost that one. But we have just about 3 minutes to wrap. Your final comment.
Man of God.
Okay, sorry. I would like to say congratulations to their brother, Abraham Ofosu-Ofori. You were commissioned as a Reverend Minister today at the Victory Presby Church in Adenta. Congratulations. May the Lord bless you. And we pray that more grace will abound to you for the work of God. Okay. Your last comment.
Jesus gave a parable of the wheat and tares.
Okay.
And then he said they should not separate it yet.
Okay.
Otherwise, in trying to pull out the tares, they will affect the wheat.
The wheat.
What it meant is that this is a very sensitive issue.
Okay.
Matters of religion is very sensitive. So I will counsel or advise that government should consult these ecclesiastical bodies, and then we should take our time in dealing with this before it gets out of hands. It's a problem that has to be solved, but we have to solve it with a lot of wisdom. May God bless Ghana. Amen. And may God bless the church.
Amen. Amen. Of course, and that's what Bishop Kranchi Mensah. One Kofi Forcing from Dubai says, "Hello, listening to you live in Dubai. I support the psychologists there. Must be proper regulations for these fake pastors from the government and the Christian Council in Ghana. There must be a punishment for any pastor who does something inhumane or in the name of deliverance." Okay, our time is up and we gotta go. I wish we could continue because now some comments are flying all over the place. Meantime, we gotta go. Make way for Uncle Ken with okay. One says, "Hope the same law will apply on fake malams." Lord of it. Now it's getting heavy. Thomas De Love Purple in Aplaku says, "Hi pastors, why are we making exclusive laws for a section of the society? Don't we have fake people in every profession, such as fake politicians?" Okay. Well, I think that we have to end it here. Many thanks to all of you for joining us by voice, ear, and text. And thank you for joining us on A Walk with Jesus. Keep the discussion going. Do we need regulations, or there's been suggestions for self-regulations by the churches and the leaders, or even by the Christian bodies, as it were, to see that we will get the charlatans out of the system. As you heard Bishop Fred Kranchi Mensah saying in his closing statement, in making attempt to uproot the tares from the wheat, you could hurt some of the wheat and it might destroy big damage. So let's tread cautiously and let's help together with conscience build our nation, Ghana. The Lord bless you. Have a good night. Many thanks to my able producer, Mrs. Mikhail, and I. Next up is